day. Today is April 8th, 2026. I am Derek Fildebrandt, publisher of the Western Standard. You're watching The Pipeline. I've got two of the three usual folks joining me. Former Western Standard opinion editor, Nigel Hannaford.
Afternoon, everybody.
And that's all you got? Okay. Senior Alberta columnist, Cory Morgan.
Good day.
And subbing in for Dave today, because we're going to be talking about a story he did. We've got Western Standard reporter Jackson Loy.
Good afternoon.
You can often see him actually sitting kind of behind between where Nigel and Cory is.
I moved actually.
You moved his desk because he didn't like
on the
camera.
No. He learned from the Dave Winnick noodle incident.
Yeah, Shanghai shame, the Shanghai noodle shame. Yeah. Okay. Well, of course, we're going to be talking about the floor crossing. Conservative MP, is it Maddie Gladow? Gladow. Crossing the floor to the Liberals, putting them one seat away from a majority. But there's 3 seats coming up in a by-election. Liberals stand to potentially win all 3 of them, but they only need to win 1 now, and they'll have their majority government. We'll be talking about that. As I intimated, Jackson broke a great story late last week. Teledoctor fraud in Alberta. You want time off of work, and you need a sick note. Well, you don't even have to see a doctor. You just call a doctor on the phone, and they'll just give it to you. Better yet, they'll even give you dangerous and addictive prescription sleeping pills. All of these things, you just call a doctor in Alberta, and you can get them pretty cheap. You pay them more, you actually get more time off of work. You can get 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how much you're willing to pay the doctor. So a bit of a potential brewing scandal about corruption in Alberta's or fraud in Alberta's healthcare system. But first, we'll start with the big news today. Ceasefire. I'm going to use the term armistice because I think it's actually the correct term here. Armistice in the second Iranian war. I guess we'll just number the Iran War 2. I don't know. Or is it Gulf War 3?
Sequels, yeah.
Gulf War 3? I don't know. How do you want to define this? I don't know. Iran War 2 for now. But an armistice. Cory, the casus belli, the cause for war has always been muddled at best. It was weapons of mass destruction, but I thought America and Israel destroyed them 6 months earlier. So that didn't really hold. It's regime change. Well, that also would necessitate the
change the names, but they all pretty much look the same.
Yeah. It's other than blow a bunch of stuff up, it's unclear what's been achieved here. But there is a armistice agreement in place. There's been some violations on different sides. Depends who you believe in the tit-for-tat of who started these things. But for 2 weeks, there's supposed to be a peace deal based on a 10-point plan put forward by the Iranians. There's some dispute about what's in that 10-point plan. But I don't know. So your take on... Did America win this war?
No. And the bulk of America are, I think, scratching their heads and saying, why the hell did we get into this? I mean, there's a lot of speculation as to why. I think your common citizen is just like, what on earth are we doing here? You know, you'd expect a smoking gun faster than that, than if there really was something. And it's just looking like another impulsive, strange action from President Trump. And the leading to this, ceasefire, armistice, whatnot, President Trump's tweet or Truth Social posting the other night where he said he was going to eliminate a civilization. That's beyond the pale even for Trump. I know I've got people upset with me for saying that online, but get over it, guys. I mean, good Lord, you do not, in that position, no matter where you're sitting, talk about eliminating a civilization. And thankfully, it turned out to be just that he wasn't going to do anything that extreme.
Yeah.
But I guess it was this leading up to now claiming victory. Well, I scared them so badly. They've offered this ceasefire, which looks like a whole bunch of demands made to the United States and not too much on the other end. And now we're at, as I said, we had this discussion a couple hours ago as we're getting ready for this. And since then, now the Strait of Hormuz has been closed again. Iran has launched on, Saudi, Kuwait, UAE, Israel, and Bahrain. And Israel is bombing the hell out of Lebanon. So I don't know how far this ceasefire is going to last or where it's going to go. As you said, the fingers are all pointing on who shot first, and it's believable out of any of them. But it's just been an interesting development. I guess for the sake of not wanting to see people die, let's hope something comes together and they can shut it down for a couple of weeks and bring some sanity in here.
Sometimes I like to say I told you so. Sometimes I
always
don't.
like to say
I do a bit. Like I always do a bit, but I don't want to be right. I've always wished I was wrong about this war, but I'll take a little victory lap. I think I get to take one here on this one, and I don't want to. I always wished I was wrong about it. But let's go through the 10-point plan just kind of really briefly. Again, there is some dispute about the 10-point plan. It was released in Arabic first because it was coming through negotiators in Pakistan, which is funny because the neither Pakistan nor Iran are Arabic-speaking countries, but they all know use of Arabic because that's their the Quranic language. So there's dispute around this, but here's what is generally considered to be the 10-point plan. U.S. guarantee of U.S. and Israeli agree of non-aggression. They won't attack Iran again. I got a bridge to sell you if you can take that to the bank. Iranian control of the Strait of Hormuz. So Iran has to guarantee people come through it, but they get to toll ships going through. Not only they've been tolling $2 million going through. I mean your eyes pop out.
It made it worse.
Holy hell, things are worse if that's the case. Iran recognition of Iran's nuclear enrichment rights. So it has to be peaceful, has to be for industrial reasons, can't be for weapons. That's been the deal. That's right. So that's a gain too, because the United States and Israel saying no enrichment at all. We don't trust you to do industrial and not take it to highly enriched uranium for weapons. So that would be another huge defeat for the Israelis and the Americans. Lifting of all sanctions on Iran, gigantic victory. Termination of the UN Security Council resolutions against Iran. Cessation of regional wars, so complete and permanent end to the conflicts in Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Hezbollah, Yemen, Houthis. I think that's just a generally good thing. I'm not sure if that's a victory for one side or another, but I think it turned out Iran's proxies like Hezbollah and the Houthis turned out not to actually be all that valuable in this. They got the crap kicked out of them. Iran's main form of retaliation was missiles. That was actually pretty successful for Iran's part. U.S. troop withdrawal, so a removal or significant reduction in the American military presence in the region, and provisions for war damage and economic recovery support with possible reparations for Iran. Okay. I have a hard time believing that actually is the 10 points because it sounds like an Ayatollah wet dream.
Sounds more like demands, actually.
Yeah.
That being the case, it's a bit early to say that that's a victory for the Iranians until somebody actually agrees to that.
Yeah, but they're saying this is the framework for discussions of, making sure this is not a 2-week temporary armistice, but an actual peace.
So we're going to take Mr. Trump's word that this is actually something that they can work with. I have a hard time with this.
This is, as even a starting point for negotiations, this is a total collapse of American military and political and diplomatic influence in the entire region.
You've done
even a starting
negotiations, haven't you?
Pardon?
You've done trade union negotiations, haven't you?
I negotiated with you guys.
No, look, the union walks into the office and they lay down their list of demands and you think, whatever. And after that, you start to go backwards and forwards. And eventually an agreement comes out that doesn't look significantly different from what you started with. Just a little more money, a little more there. This is the Iranian trade union saying, in a perfect world, this is what we would like, including control of the Straits of Hormuz. I don't think they're going to get it.
I mean, okay, yeah, in a negotiation, one side, especially with a union, one side comes with wild demands, but this was not the starting point of demands. This is the agreed to shared framework. Again, there is dispute about this. Carolyn Levitt, the press secretary of the president, is saying, no, it's not, but not really saying, well, what is the framework that they've agreed to? They have agreed to 10 points. What are the 10 points you've agreed to? So this is not a starting point. This is, at least as far as we know, this is the shared framework for it. If so, this is an abject, total defeat of the United States and a humiliation of it in the region.
Well, if that was, in fact, if that becomes the permanent agreement, you would be right. But I don't think it's going to be that, in part for anything else. from what we're hearing, it's going to start up again in 24 hours, if not 24, 48. And it won't be a framework for anything other than the, what did you call it, a wet dream?
Ayatollah's wet dream. I mean, trademark and copyright.
That's usually got goats dancing across.
Jackson, I know these warmongers are trying to walk their previous statements back. I know you. I think you've had a bit of a different take on it. I know today I put up a meme of, we all remember. I don't, too young for you. You were too young, but George Bush on the aircraft carrier with the mission accomplished.
Yeah,
I know. We had we photoshopped Donald Trump onto it today. I feel like that is even too far, because at least, and thank God they didn't go too far.
Mm-hmm.
I think they very much wanted a ground invasion, a full dirty war here.
Yeah.
But the chief of staff to for the U.S. Army resigned over this, and roughly half a dozen generals that we're aware of, a lot of the upper brass, they were either fired, resigned, or forced to resign. Combinations of these things. It seems they couldn't find a general willing to carry out the orders here for a ground invasion, and so they just kind of threw up their hands. Trump is, according to Trump, he's never lost anything in his life. No. We've won, tremendous victory, total victory, unconditional surrender, and he even said it's regime change, and it's literally just the son of the Ayatollah. What do you think finally got the Americans just to go from 24 hours earlier threatening genocide and implying nuclear war to seemingly agree to a framework that is a total humiliation?
I think from the get-go of this war, there's been really the reason for the invasion, or for the attack on Iran, has been muddled. There's been no clear, at least with Iraq and with the Gulf War, it was regime change, and they said it from the outset.
No, it was weapons of mass destruction.
Then became regime change.
But at least they had just two.
Whereas with Iran, is from the start, there's been no clear objective. And so when you start a war with no clear objective and then claim victory when the end goal will be what? If in the best case scenario, it'll be status quo from beforehand. So I can't see how they can come out of this in any sort of positive manner. I guess in Trump's eyes, he's killed the Ayatollah, so that's a victory. But again, what I don't think the Americans understand is when you're dealing with a regime like Iran, that martyrdom, that sense of dying for the cause, will only bolster support with the Iranian people. And before this, there was a sort of a simmering support for the return of the Shah and kind of, Persian monarchism and that. But now it's you threaten to annihilate a people, you're not going to be winning popular support and getting those people to rise up to support the person who says, we're going to annihilate you. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, this is one of the, should have been lessons of, say, the Second World War, is demanding unconditional surrender means that people are not going to be willing to overthrow their regime to obtain better peace terms. It's when it becomes clear, we're going to annihilate you, we're going to crush your cities, carve up your territory. People will not. People tend to rally behind the regime, even if they don't like the regime.
Exactly.
And you threaten annihilating a civilization, intimating essentially a nuclear attack. People and you start blowing up civilian infrastructure. You could turn me into a friggin' Ayatollah. I'll go blow myself up for God at that point.
Well, not just that, but the threatening of energy infrastructure. And on another point, I think Trump understands, I don't think he truly understands what the word unconditional surrender means. I think he's heard it. And same with Pete Hegseth as well.
Good.
I think he just heard that's what you get when you win a war. You get unconditional surrender. So they're saying unconditional surrender. You will not get that with this regime. And that was never going to happen. Iran is not Afghanistan. It's a country of 90 million people. You were never going to be able to fully assert your will on that country. So any thoughts of that was
well, he's also
silly from the start.
Misinterpretation of the atmosphere on the ground too, though. I mean, there had been a lot of activity looking like maybe the citizenship were ready to rise up. If we could just shake down the regime enough, the people themselves were going to get up and have a revolution, which didn't happen. If anything, it seems to have unified them.
Yeah.
But there were mass protests. There were people pushing back against the regime. I guess when push came to shove, though, they were still saying, well, we'd rather the dictator who's our guy over the overseas dictator who's not.
Mm-hmm.
And
do we have that in writing somewhere?
with a
the expressed will of the, the ordinary Iranian.
no, I mean that's a hard thing to read, but I mean at least your hope would be if there was such an atmosphere that they were ready to overthrow. If you've weakened the regime enough, that's when people are going to see that opportunity and say, let's go for it. Because they tried a couple of months ago and tens of thousands of them died for their efforts. And, you would
see what happens when they start slipping weapons in the back door in Iran.
Well, that might have been more of the...
Which is, I think, quietly being attended to.
Well, that should have been done.
Maybe
months ago.
It seems like something you do before you
Yeah.
say, you'd be in a position like...
Well, you'll see. One thing is for sure, there ain't going to be any Iranian nuclear weapon in the very near future, or even in the midterm future.
Well, actually, I would leave at this point. We don't really know what the status of the Iranian nuclear program was. We don't know if they were actively building weapon with the first Iranian war 6 months ago. We don't know if they were building one this time. They provided essentially no proof both times. But, as I've made the point before, they claimed that they utterly annihilated their program and set it back decades 6 months ago, and then they claim to be doing it again now. So I am hesitant to believe U.S. and Israeli intelligence around this, following also Iraq before that. I'm pretty hesitant to believe that. But I can, just gaming things out, I'll tell you, if the Iranians weren't building a nuclear weapon before, they are now. That is the only guarantee they have that this doesn't happen in a third war.
They want to. They certainly are in no position to do so.
I'm not. Who knows? Who knows?
We'll see.
Or you could just go buy some dirty bomb parts from someone else who's already got them. I don't know. But if the Iranians were playing ball before, and I don't believe any of the intelligence. I don't believe the propaganda from either sides. I don't know what to believe. But if they weren't building a bomb before, they are definitely building one right now. They have to build a bomb, essentially.
Or their resolve has been strengthened in that.
Yeah.
It's like you're not installing killing the top brass is not going to make them be, okay, you're a friendly power we can deal with.
Even if I was like a secular, liberal, Persian monarchist regime in Iran, I would be quietly building a bomb right now. It's pretty clear that that's the only deterrent to stop war every 6 months.
That. I mean, that's the one and only thing that could get the world on side with the U.S. again to go in, because that is the one regime I really don't want to see getting a bloody bomb. And I understand it's questionable the word of Trump or even Bush when it came to weapons of mass destruction. But if they really start building one and that evidence really comes out, and boy, the United States would love to be able to point to that's when you can get.
But will anybody believe their evidence now? It's the boy who cried wolf. You've had Iraq, you've had Iran 1, you've had Iran 2, and there's been no solid evidence provided any of those 3 times. So Iran could build a bomb now. And who's going to believe the Americans or Israelis if they claim it? And they might be true this time. But that's what happened with the boy who cried wolf.
Let's see if any enriched uranium is produced as a result of these negotiations, because that's part of the 10 as well.
Okay. All right, we'll move along. Something a little less dreary.
More than front.
So, Jackson, you did a great report this week, and we were chatting this morning. I think it deserves more attention, so we won't talk about it on the pipeline. You've got a bottle of pills in front of you, and you've got some sick notes that you were able to pay for through the Western Standards.
Yes.
Just tell folks what the hell you did and what you found. What's going on with these kind of telehealth doctors in Alberta?
Well, basically, I've been able to. I could have been off work until tomorrow, I think, or no, a couple of days from now. I could be at home lounging, but I'm not. I'm here, unfortunately. But so basically, we started an investigation just to see how easy it would be to get. Well, it started out as sick notes, fake sick notes. If you just call a doctor, say I have a headache, I don't want to go to work. Well, they write you a sick note. Found out they will if you want to.
And you didn't have to see a doctor.
Didn't have to see a doctor. Didn't have to FaceTime a doctor. Just over the phone. What's your symptoms? I'm stressed from work. I don't know. I need 2 weeks off. Okay, sure. Here's 2 weeks. Oh, you want 3 weeks? $90. You want a month? $100. Like it's a pay to play sort of system. And then it became, well, what can we get out of this? How much can we get? And found out you can get pretty serious stuff. Like
okay, tell us what you got.
So this is Zopiclone. It's it's called a Z drug.
Here, put it over there. Put it on the camera.
I don't want to put the name there, but you can see there. Yeah, I don't put the name of the thing there, but
okay,
Derek's gonna start taking.
We're gonna black that little part out
if you saw.
I'm sure you don't get doxxed.
But yeah, so basically, I was able to have a phone call with one of these online doctors. Told them Oh, I'm not sleeping well, stressed out from work, got a bit of headaches. I didn't even ask. I didn't say, oh, can you give me some sleeping pills? She said, would you like some? I said, of course.
They just offered them.
Of course I'd like some. And what do you know? I went to my pharmacy that night, $15 later, and I've got a little thing of sleeping pills that I can now take and drink some liquor and kill myself with. So
15 tablets.
Yeah.
I mean, you take those all at once with a bottle
Yeah.
of rye, you're having a night.
Well, I talked to Dr. Monte Gauche at the University of Calgary, and he basically was very informative and told me that, these pills are like, you hear about OxyContin and all these other like, benzos and stuff. That this isn't a benzo, but this is still a highly addictive sleeping pill that should not be able to get, that you should not be able to get through just a phone call to a online physician.
Yeah. So yeah, this started because we were we thought there might be suspicions about how easy is it to get a sick note. Yeah, I know when I'm if I'm sick, I guess I don't have to give myself a sick note now. But we allow people to take some sick days here within reason. But if someone wants kind of an extended leave, we require a sick note. Then we don't require sick note for taking one day off. You got the flu. That's no one wants to get up and go to the doctor's office to see that. But I would always expect that a doctor's note provided to me if someone's going on long-term medical leave, that they would have seen a doctor.
You think
you didn't even have to FaceTime. You're just on the phone with them.
Yeah.
Nigel, I know you've been. I don't mean this meanly, but you've been in the workplace a while. Traditionally, you would expect you'd see a doctor, but this is a new thing. I'm not sure exactly how new, but it's relatively new. Chris Oldcorn, our reporter in Saskatchewan, an opinion editor, he tried at Saskatchewan with at least one of these telehealth places. They told him pound sand. They're like, we'll give you 2 days at most, and that is so that you can go take the time off work to go to a doctor and get some tests and see what's wrong with you. They did not seem to have the same problem, Nigel. But yeah, we Jackson found this endemic in Alberta, and it's pay to play, and they'll give you more. They'll offer pills that you don't even ask for.
There's going to be people phoning you up asking for contact information. Good for Saskatchewan, but this actually is a much bigger deal than just in Alberta. It's continent wide. I did a little bit of scan on the good old internet, and think of 3 tiers. Very common: employees exaggerating illness, seeking a convenient sick note, which is, I think, where you were. Then there's the occasional people doctor shopping for prescriptions, but there are also, that's rare, but there are also fake doctors. This is an organized fraud ring, and it's continent wide. It's a problem in the United States. A lot of individual states have clamped down on it, have brought in specific legislation to make this kind of thing impossible. One wonders how successful they have been. But the real sad thing about all this, you ever take a sick day? You ever taken a sick day?
work from home, but not a sick day.
A lot of people think there's nothing wrong with this ripping off the employer and work and staying home.
I assure you there is.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who think like that.
Yeah.
And the sickness here, I mean, there's a sickness among people who will write you a prescription for a fee, whether you deserve it or not. But the real sickness is the people who are asking for it.
100%.
Kind of despicable.
Yeah.
And it's just, it looks like also to a degree what's happened is common, is a good program gone bad. Like the intent is to get people out of clinics. That's really taking up a lot of our front end healthcare.
And when you're sick, you don't want to go in
with minor issues, whether it's sick days or prescriptions. Like some of the moves were pretty good. Like pharmacists can now give some basic prescriptions. You go in, you got a burning in an area, here's some tetracycline. No sense taking up the doctor's time for that particular issue. But that's still seeing a professional face to face. I think we can't take away. I mean, nurse practitioners as well. That's an area we're expanding where maybe you don't necessarily need a full doctor for some of these things as well, even sick days, because that's somebody who can look at you, take your temperature, do a few things. This phone-in thing, I think, is a real problem.
I mean, if you walked in, this is a story about phone-in doctors, all right. But if you had actually walked in, they'd have taken one look at you and say, "Well, what's the matter with you?"
You're fine, yes.
You look fine to me.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, and even the scary thing, I said I must stress this, is I really, like, again, if you watch the video, there's some of the audio from my conversations with these doctors, and I don't push, I don't try, I just say, well, I don't feel so great. I don't.
Well, the order I gave to you was play hard to get.
Exactly.
Play hard to get. See how much they offer you without you pressing.
So it's not even like you can, like, it's not even like you're trying or exaggerating your symptoms, and it's on the patient to lie. It's the doctors facilitating it, or not all. There's a place for this kind of system.
Play. They don't get paid unless they're getting a note.
And you can sure turn over a heck of a lot with a phone assistant.
Just out of curiosity, have you any idea where's that little packet of pills?
I threw it on the ground. Keep it off camera.
Everybody saw it. 15 tablets. What's that worth on the street?
It's a good question. I'm not really sure.
That's the next story.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, get out there, start
we can just
talking.
walk right into the back alley
across
here.
the road and see that we can still give you a price list.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
So I've already given you orders to commit fraud for pills and sick notes. Now I'm ordering you to be a drug dealer.
Love the Western stamp.
I mean, we go above and beyond here.
Once you get busted, we don't know you anymore.
Yeah, no. If you don't go and sell them on the streets here for a story, we're gonna have to pop these and drink it with 40 Weisers
next week.
Yeah.
Next week on the show.
Yeah, and just no reaction from the Alberta government. You've contacted there's, I guess, kind of a variety of health ministers now. Just total silence. I guess the College of Physicians and Surgeons has spoken out against it, but silence from the government here. Any idea why?
Reached out to the addictions minister and the health minister. Didn't hear anything back from the addictions minister, which is a little concerning. And the health minister basically just said,
sick leave.
Oh, there you go.
Addicted to silence.
Yeah. But I've reached out to the health minister and basically just said, we hope that doctors act professionally. And that was about the extent of the statement I got. And it is, like, I've heard back from the CPSA, and that is good. And I followed up with them to see if they'll, I provide them the name of the physicians that I had. And I hope that they follow up with them to really eke out what is going on here. But it is worrying that there's been basically mum from the government, and like I said, in Saskatchewan, obviously there must be, maybe it was luck of the draw with Chris. He got one that was actually stick to their guns and stuff. Of course, this is not an attack on physicians or doctors.
Well, we're not even sure that these people who gave you these notes for prescriptions and sick notes, we're not even sure that they were doctors. I mean, we can't verify.
Well, there's enough to suggest that they are, but it's still like, again, it's still over the phone. How can you be sure? So
they can't be sure that
you don't know who the person is.
Exactly.
It goes both ways. Either. I mean, you can call in with somebody else's information and presumably get a prescription.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's no confirmation.
No, not at all.
Well, I'm going to have to update our internal policies here on sick notes that it has to be from a doctor in person.
Yeah.
For all we know, the guys giving these prescriptions and sick notes, they could be sitting in Nigeria or Bangladesh or something. Just give them a 403 number and route it through.
Yeah.
Okay. Much more fun. So, Maddie Glandu.
Madeline.
She, I think she's been a Conservative MP for a few terms. Ontario MP crossed the floor today. So she now sits with the Liberal government in caucus. This brings the Liberals, Nigel, within one seat of a majority. There are 3 by-elections taking place right now. The Liberals are guaranteed to take one, very likely to take a second, and stand a damn good chance in the third. I think for all intents and purposes, today is the first day of a Liberal majority government.
For all intents and purposes. There's a lot of things about this that just really disappoint Conservatives. One is that there's some hypocrisy here. Gladue had actually gone on the record. I found this great little story. We don't often get a chance to quote the small newspapers, but I'll tell you about the Lambton Independent back there in
Sarnia Lambton.
But that I can't pronounce that. There's a third word. BKEJW.
Oh my goodness.
So we got this little paper, and they go out and they ask their MP the last time there was a defection what she thinks about that, and she's told that paper allowing MP she's okay with if you quit and sit as an independent, But she quoted in the paper saying, really, the whole point of being an MP is to represent your constituents. So if they're voting you in under one platform, for you to switch for whatever reasons just seems to me to not be representing what you're supposed to be there to represent. In other words, she's saying they should go to a by-election. Well, she is not going to a by-election.
No.
She has gone in, kissed the ring. I don't know what the deal is, but at any rate, she's not being true to what she said even 3 months ago. And in her area, there was actually a petition going around that there should be by-elections if anybody crosses the floor. So that's one thing. I think that she's not a particularly good representative for her own point of view. The other thing, kind of a conservative, are you? If you dump your party, you know, there's five people have decided that they don't really have political convictions, and that if there's a good deal by crossing the floor, like there isn't a good way to look at this. It's just a shameful lack of principle.
I don't like floor crossing discussions too much because, for the most part, everyone's view on floor crossing, Cory, is if it happens from another party to mine, it's a good thing. And if it happens from my party to another, it's a bad thing. It as Gladue herself essentially seems to demonstrate. So, my colleague crossed the floor from the Conservatives to the Liberals. That traitorous bastard, he should stand in a by-election or sit as an independent. But when I do it, well, this is what my constituents want, and I'm serving the community, blah, blah, blah. It's always fine when it's yourself. And I know a lot of people, probably most people watching and listening to this, they're angry about this. But here's the thing, on our system, you don't elect parties, and you don't elect prime ministers and leaders, you elect MPs. So if you're upset about this, you should also take it up with the leader who kind of recruited that person to run as a candidate. Because I know we all love the MPs and MLAs on our own team, but here's the fact. Most are bums and hacks. Most people, Mark Carty's not an example of this, but for most people, it's the best job they're ever going to have in their life. They're never going to make more money. They're never going to be more important. They're never going to be more recognized. This is the pinnacle of their career. And you don't even know who your own MP is most of the time. She's been there for a while. I bet you half the people in her riding probably don't even know who she is. They're bums and hacks on both sides. And there's certainly a bunch of exceptions, but this is the default because leaders like bums and hacks as MPs and MLAs because they're more compliant. Here's a little. You could sit on this committee. You could be shadow minister of this. You could be the parliamentary secretary of that, or if you behave really well, you could be a minister if you're in government. They're more pliable, and so this is part of the over-centralized party and leadership system that we have. This is one of the results, is that you're going to attract less people to politics who are of strong conviction. You might like them or not, but you'll never see like a Scott Reid. He's an MP in the Ottawa Valley in rural Ontario, hard right wing. You'll never see him cross the Liberals because he is a hardcore conservative. His problem is that his party are a bunch of wimps. But so if he leaves, he would sit as an independent or join the PPC or something. But he's never going to join the Liberals, no matter what they really offer him, because it's just too far past. But we tend not to recruit people like this as candidates because they're more problematic.
I like to think that case in Scott Reid's case, but if you look at Gladue's history, she's a blue Tory. Most of her questions have been on ending the gun grab, on checking into vaccine injuries.
Well, you just have to slap down my whole point, my thesis right there.
Well,
but you got a point. You got a point.
Some of them, when we look at Jenna, he was always kind of a mushy red.
He's a hack.
Yes. But she actually came from the unapologetic, hardcore conservative. And what I got to wonder about some of the consequences of this, and I agree with you, like the ability to cross the floor is important. And I know we've had those discussions. A lot of listeners will always get on.
And as much as it sucks, it's
part
actually
of this
key to the functioning constitution of a parliament.
It'll centralize the power even more if you take that away.
Yeah.
But in her case, I got a feeling some liberals aren't going to be too thrilled with having her sitting next to them either. This isn't
She has to sit with New Democrats in the caucus that across the floor.
Say her and Stephen Guilbeault are in the same party now.
The reek of the opportunism on her part, the completely throwing away of everything she claimed she stood for in the past. Like this is I agree. Like Scott Reed's well established. I don't think he would sit as an independent before he go. I could be proven wrong, but I could. But she politically and ideologically was very much on the same bench as him.
Yeah, that's fair.
And she threw that to the wind because she wants to, as you said, wants that more importance, a little more money, a few more committees to say, I'm a part of the government. And it just creates so much cynicism among people. This is what makes people throw their hands up, give up, and not even vote at all, which is as ineffective as voting might feel like. Not doing it at all will make it worse.
Changing the parties doesn't even really change the government very much. But right now, the government itself can change even without an election.
To your point on her principles, she actually voted against the ban on conversion therapy, which sets her as
to the right of me.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be surprising, and I don't know it to be the case, wouldn't be surprising if she was pro-life, because the two tend to go together, in which case she's now in a party that theoretically
she's not allowed to be a part of.
Not allowed to be a part of.
Yeah.
The other thing that you had to like about her at the time was that she voted for ending mandates during the COVID era. She called lifting the federal vaccine mandates affecting travel and federally regulated workers. Was defeated, of course, but she was on the right side. So there's more to this, and I just do not, frankly, understand. Frailty, thy name is woman.
One anyway.
Jackson. Yeah. It was just a few months ago. The Conservatives' National Convention was in town. Poilievre was pretty triumphant in his leadership review. I forget exactly what it was, but it was, I think, fairly high. 87?
87, yeah.
87, yeah. Pretty solid. It wasn't Danielle Smith, North Korean territory, but it was very strong. Like, he seemed unassailable.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the floor crossings had already started. Some of us around the office, myself included, were speculating that floor crossing could happen during the convention to try and demoralize everyone while they're there. That didn't happen, but generally, I think, went right after the convention. He's passed his leadership review vote solidly, but that is never a guarantee you actually make it to the next election. And I've generally considered theories that, he'd be ousted to be fantastical, kind of Doug Ford, projecting, wanting things to happen rather than actually a sober analysis of things. But today's the first day where I've at least allowed a little bit of doubt that, it's been 4 or 5 now. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Think back when Danielle Smith was the Wild Rose leader. Cory, remember this? She triumphed in her leadership review vote, but right after, she had 2 floor crossings against her. And a month and a half after that, she crossed the floor with 2/3 of the caucus. The bottom fell out in a nuclear, spectacular fashion. You think in Alberta, Ed Stelmach passed his leadership review. Months later, gone. Alison Redford passed her leadership review. Months to a year later, gone. Passing a leadership review gets you through a major hurdle that you have to cross, but it doesn't guarantee you make it to the next election. I don't know. What do you think the chances are now, as these numbers continue to pile up, that eventually it's just going to be, the caucus could say, you got the support of the members generally, and we love you, but clearly the center can't hold here. You got to go.
I just think it's a really unfortunate time for Poilievre, what I think, because he had the leadership review and he's trying a more softer approach, or more he said he doesn't want to attack Carney as he did Trudeau, which I think is something that probably will benefit him. I mean, we've seen his polling numbers kind of stabilize around 34-35%, which historically that's election winning numbers for a Conservative Party, or close to it anyways, minority numbers. Do I think I really couldn't say, because when you look at the kind of the coalition that Mark Carney is building, he's trying to match that. I think he's trying to match that sort of calm leadership that Carney is now sort of generating. But I at least with when you look at the NDP, I don't agree with the leader they've elected, but at least that's something that that's a base Carney does not have. He does not have that left wing base. Poilievre now is, with as more people sort of, even the more socially conservative people like Gladeau, who are now migrating to Carney's party, it's going to be increasingly difficult for him to justify what his policies are, why he's different, what makes him an attractive candidate to vote for instead of the Liberal Party, which I wouldn't have said 2 years ago when he was polling at 47%.
Why do we all saw Poilievre on Joe Rogan Experience, and a lot of people commented that this was a new statesman-like. This was the grown-up Poilievre doing his best to give the dad vibes that Mark Carney might give, depending on who you're talking to. Certainly more dad vibes than say Justin Trudeau would project. That's easy. But he was talking about the Liberals taking his policies. Is like, that's good. I want them to steal my policies. But does he want them? Does he want the Liberals to steal his MPs? This is a lot now. Yeah. This is a lot. This is not just you can't just say, hey, this was just this one miscontent in caucus, and we're glad that guy's gone. This is a lot now, as Cory said. Glad to, as he said in blowing up my thesis around who crosses floors, this was not fitting the profile of, say, a Matt Jenner, who's like a really red Tory, kind of a political hack and a swing riding. This is different. So, as we're sitting here, as I was just saying that, I got a text from a friend of mine. I won't just give their name on here. This is a Poilievre supporter. This is a fairly significant conservative in Alberta, and it's over for PP. I won't go that far yet, but I'll say today is the first day where I've thought post-election, his job is not guaranteed until the next vote.
Yeah. Well, I kind of I understand what you're saying, but I think there's something wrong with the way that the Conservative Party has chosen its candidates. We all know that a lot of strings were pulled to put certain people in place. Those have not necessarily gone well, and at this time we have a few more Scott Reeds and a few less people who just go Conservative because they think it's the thing to do. To your point, it's a little early to call it yet, but just as Pierre has been the victim of a lot of bad luck, he could also become the victim of some good luck, courtesy of Mr. Lewis. You made the point that that's a base that Mr. Carney doesn't have. Well, you know what? Mr. Carney actually won about 2 million and maybe a little more, 2 million NDP votes to put his majority together. Avi Lewis is almost a socialist out of central casting. And I think the nutters will come back to him and give him a lot of steam. Now, it's going to take a few months before we see that. But I think the NDP is going to come storming back. They're all mad. What they're proposing is rubbish, but it sounds so good if you are a commie.
There's always a core of those.
Yeah, we are going to have free groceries. We are going to make the rich pay.
But wouldn't those people already be the NDP base who voted, who were the 7%, 6% they got in the last election? I feel like all this does is just consolidate that base to Lewis.
Okay, we got to move on to parting shots though, because we are out of time. But since I had to cut Jackson off there, Jackson gets first parting shot. Although I didn't even tell you to prepare one.
No, well, I'll say something. I think that it'll be interesting to see in just going off the Poilievre stuff here. There's been lots of talk about. I did an analysis piece a couple weeks back when the Nunavut MP from the NDP crossed the floor to the Liberals, and I just think, obviously, Carney he's been soaring right now in the polls, and he's got seemingly the mandate of heaven at the minute with all these floor crosses and everything. But that's with the public perception that he has a minority. So I wonder if maybe this public perception will change once he has a majority. And if he's unable to do the things he's promised, I wonder if that will happen. And that's something that I really think maybe Poilievre is banking on. I don't know.
I think when the next election comes, he's going to say he needs a strong, stable majority Carney government. Cory.
There's an ideological shift that has been happening in Calgary City Hall. They actually reversed the blanket rezoning, which was the hallmark of the Gondek government there, I guess you could say. And I just reminded people, watch Mike Thomas. He's been covering this, and this actually happened. We're going to see what becomes of that next, though, because people don't watch their municipal politics closely enough. And hey, the Western Standards actually hit it really well at City Hall.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
It's sometimes it's the little things that give away the bigger picture. And Prime Minister Carney, given his due, thinks it's a big deal that a Canadian spoke French en route to the moon. He actually put out a press release saying what a good this thing and historic. Meanwhile, the Canadian in question, good man, I've no doubt, but he's sitting in an American-made spaceship funded by the American taxpayer, and if all goes well, is about to be plucked out of the Pacific by the U.S. Navy. Now, if he had to speak French at all, maybe Mr. Carney could have just said, "Merci, Monsieur Trump." You know, how do we manage to make a French moment out of an American achievement? It's just a little sad.
I think you're missing the bigger picture here. This is Quebec's plan to establish a colony on the moon.
They can go.
The
Chip in.
the language Bill 101 and language laws will be in effect on the moon. Okay, I just want to give note to a poll came out just the other day showing a slim majority, 53-ish% of Canadians polled say that they believe Canada should join the European Union. I think, as you put it before we came on, I think it was you, Nigel, to say before we started recording, was that file this under polling for stupid. I mean, it's a hypothetical. Almost certainly would never happen, but we are in a crazy world where things are in wild flux. I would say never. I think it's highly improbable. But I just and if you look at the crosstabs here, it tends to be like boomer liberals who like the idea of joining the EU. I think they visited Europe when Europe was still European, so they're probably remembering it more fondly than it should be at this point. Yeah, but this is the elbows up crowd that is terrified of becoming the 51st state. Yeah, I don't think that would be a good thing. I don't want to join the states, but I didn't take Trump particularly seriously about it. Even if I think it was kind of a glint in his eye of something he'd like. These people freaked out about the idea of joining the United States that we're joined at the hip to, but the idea of just surrendering our sovereignty to a supranational federation that's even worse and even more dysfunctional than the United States, I need to move to the moon. I clearly just don't belong with these humans.
This is a parting barrage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Parting rocket. Okay.
I agree with you.
Nigel, Cory, Jackson, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for John running the studio today. And all of you for joining us on The Pipeline. Remember, we need your support. Go to westernstandard.news, click on subscribe. It's $10 a month or $100 a year to get unlimited access to all Western Standard content and to support the work that we are doing here. Thank you very much, and God bless.